December 25, 1991, the world witnessed the dramatic collapse of the most powerful communist nation in history. Following Mikhail Gorbachev's resignation, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, dissolved into 15 independent states. This moment marked the end of the Soviet Federation and brought the Cold War, a 44-year geopolitical standoff between East and West, to a close. While the reasons behind the Soviet collapse remain a subject of debate, many point to the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, the USSR's final leader, as a key factor. When Gorbachev became General Secretary of the Communist Party in 1985, there was widespread hope that his leadership would bring reform and change. The Soviet Union had been stagnating under the leadership of Leonid Brezhnev, the fifth leader of the USSR, during a period now known as the Era of Stagnation. For over 2 decades, both political and economic innovation had been scarce. Soviet leaders, secure in their positions, resisted change, leaving the USSR lagging behind the Western world. At the same time, the ongoing Cold War and the nuclear arms race were draining the Soviet Union's resources. Gorbachev attempted to address these issues, striving to de-escalate tensions with the West. In 1986, he proposed a 50% reduction in nuclear weapons, but his offer was rejected. Internally, the USSR faced the burden of its stagnant economy and bloated military budget, which Gorbachev sought to reform through 2 key policies: perestroika, restructuring, and glasnost, openness. Perestroika aimed to revitalize the Soviet economy by introducing market elements into the centrally planned system. It allowed limited private enterprise and encouraged joint ventures, paving the way for foreign companies like McDonald's, which opened its first branch in Moscow in 1990. In 1988, the legalization of cooperatives enabled small businesses to set their own prices and keep profits, leading to a flourishing sector of cafes, shops, and restaurants. However, these reforms proved to be half measures. Government control over prices and production largely remained, and the expected economic revitalization never fully materialized. Glasnost, Gorbachev's other major reform, was intended to combat the corruption and nepotism that had plagued the Communist Party. By promoting transparency and open discussion, he hoped to democratize Soviet society. Glasnost unleashed a flood of criticism against the party, leading to the resignation of many prominent reformers. Gorbachev also streamlined the Communist Party by cutting down the number of Central Committee departments and implementing anti-corruption measures. Perhaps the most significant reforms occurred at the 19th Party Conference in June 1988, where Gorbachev introduced multi-candidate elections, culminating in the abolition of Article 6 of the Soviet Constitution in 1990. This ended the Communist Party's monopoly on power, and by year's end, the party was effectively powerless. Local elections saw communist candidates defeated, notably in Leningrad, where opposition candidates won 60% of the seats. Boris Yeltsin, Gorbachev's main political rival, capitalized on this shift. As Moscow's mayor, Yeltsin became a key figure, encouraging nationalist movements both within Russia and in the non-Russian republics. These nationalist movements were emboldened by the end of the Brezhnev Doctrine, a policy that had previously justified Soviet military intervention in satellite states attempting to distance themselves from communism. With the doctrine abandoned, Soviet control over these states waned. On March 11, 1990, Lithuania declared its independence, the first Soviet republic to do so. Soon after, independence movements surged across other Soviet republics. These movements, fueled by the openness of glasnost and unimpeded by Soviet military intervention, led to the rapid collapse of communist regimes throughout Eastern Europe, most famously symbolized by the fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989. Multiple factors contributed to the fall of the Soviet Union: high military spending, a foreign policy that fanned the flames of nationalist sentiment, and an economy crippled by decades of stagnation and mismanagement. Though many blame Gorbachev for his failed reforms, others see the collapse as inevitable, the result of the cumulative failures of his predecessors, particularly Brezhnev. In truth, no single factor can fully explain the Soviet Union's dissolution. Regardless of the cause, the collapse of the USSR marked the end of a political and economic superpower that had dominated much of the 20th century. It was a pivotal event that reshaped the global order, ending the Cold War and heralding a new era in international relations. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with suggestions for what you'd like to see next.